Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Coming up this week with the major Season 2 Reloaded update in Warzone and Modern Warfare 3, we are of course going to see our next major meta update slash weapons update go live as well. This is going to include new buffs and new nerfs to a handful of weapons across the board, and also the introduction of several new weapons and weapon upgrades in the form of aftermarket parts. So with that said, today I wanted to dive deep into everything we currently know about this next meta update, the new weapon details that we have, and some of what to expect potentially with the actual weapon changes with various different buffs and nerfs and what you might want to look out for. So as we jump into all of this, if you enjoy the video, do me a favor, drop a like on it. It's always really appreciated. And if you are new to the channel or you simply have not subscribed yet, every single day I got you covered with news, updates, patch notes, meta breakdowns. It's all right here, so feel free to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications to stay up to date. Now, initially here, let's start with our actual two new weapons that are going to be dropping with Season 2 Reloaded. We've got one actual ranged weapon that'll actually be competitive in the overall meta most likely, and then also more of a gimmicky, more of a niche option with a brand new melee weapon. And let's focus on that real quick first. This is known as the Soul Render, and this is going to be a brand new sword. Now, this will become available through the classified sector in the battle pass, and with this essentially it'll act like the HRM9 did last season, where in order to get this you have to go through and complete some specific challenges within the battle pass sector itself. Then once you complete all the mini tiers, the final tier will unlock, and that'll give you the Soul Render melee. Here's how they describe this sword. It's a little bit different than your standard melee. A ceremonial blade capable of razor sharp cuts and deadly melee action in close quarters combat. Cut your enemies down to size with this vicious blade capable of rapid slicing for quick takedowns. The Soul Render offers rapid slashing attacks via the aim button alongside its heavier primary attacks. There's going to be two different attack types with this melee. Hold the fire button to prepare the heavy slash and release in time to down your foe with a devastating hit. Combo the two attack styles together for maximum damage. So at least based off of this, it seems like the heavy attack would be a full one hit, whereas the spammy sort of slashes would be like a 2 to 3 hit, even in multiplayer potentially. They also say the Soul Render introduces a brand new weapon camo accessible by completing the Soul Render specific in-game challenge, and of course it's going to be the standard stuff with the other universal mastery camos as well if you're trying to unlock those on it. But yeah, for those of you interested in a new melee, we actually have what seems to be a pretty unique one dropping with the Soul Render. But more importantly, at least for a competitive standpoint, we do also have a brand new battle rifle dropping, and this is the SOA Subverter. Now, this is going to become accessible through the weekly challenges, presumably the week 5 challenges that'll drop alongside Season 2 Reloaded, and this one seems like it could have a lot of potential in the actual mid to long range meta. So here's how they describe the Subverter. Chambered in 7.62, this hard-hitting rifle dominates at mid to longer ranges thanks to a low rate of fire and predictable recoil. With an effective damage range up to 25 meters and the highest rate of fire within its class, the SOA Subverter is well worth considering as your new main weapon. Its steady upward recoil is easily manageable for staying on target through sustained fire, combined with a solid damage output that downs most enemies in 3 to 4 shots before factoring in armor plates. The SOA Subverter introduces 3 new weapon camos that are of course going to be the standard base camos that we see with any new gun, and you of course can also get the mastery camos on those as well. Now, rumor has it that this may actually have barrels that look similar to the Grau iron sights back from Warzone 1, obviously in MW 2019. That was a leak from some time ago. Hopefully that still is true and that comes to fruition. We'll of course see when the update drops, but this is certainly one I've got my eyes set on. Also, they're describing it basically as being a meta weapon, a little bit more of an aggressive battle rifle, and of course the new guns are always usually pretty good, especially if they are a mid-season gun. So this one certainly could be holding its own in the meta once Season 2 Reloaded drops, and I'll be breaking down the best setup for it and everything right as it does end up releasing, so stay tuned for that. Now, another pretty significant part of the Season 2 Reloaded meta update is going to be the new updates to the aftermarket parts. We of course see these drop almost every single week throughout the weekly challenges. We've got 2 new ones that are going to be dropping throughout the remainder of Season 2 / Season 2 Reloaded initially. We do have 4 weeks left in the season, so obviously week 5 is presumably going to be the Subverter. Week 6 would be a new aftermarket part. Week 7 would be a new aftermarket part, and then apparently in week 8 we're going to have a new weapon blueprint available as well. But initially here, the first aftermarket part that we've yet to see is known as the Jack Backsaw Kit. This is going to be for the Holger 556, and they say on this, attach a high-capacity drum magazine to the Holger 556 alongside a double barrel configuration, allowing the weapon to fire 2 bullets at a time. So this essentially seems like it's similar to the Jack Etten double barrel that we have on the AMR9. My question with this would be, is it also going to introduce that bloom mechanic that the Etten double barrel also had? If that's the case, this is not going to be realistically competitive whatsoever if there's any bloom at all that destroys a weapon's chance to be meta, in my opinion. But if not, and it actually has a decent damage profile, that could be a pretty wild setup for the Holger 556. The second new aftermarket part slash new weapon, essentially, because it's completely changing it, is known as the Jack Outlaw 277 kit, and this is going to be available for the Bass B. And they say transform the Bass B into a lever action rifle, slowing its rate of fire while massively improving the accuracy for pinpoint precision. So basically just turning it into more of a marksman slash sniper style weapon. And I would imagine the damage with that goes up significantly since your rate of fire is slowing down so much. So if it's similar to the previous marksman style metas that we've had in the game, this could also be pretty nuts. And the Bass B, pretty much in every single form, has been a meta weapon at some point in time this year, whether it was the SMG build or the mid to long range rifle build. So hey, I wouldn't be surprised if a lever action build for it was also in the meta as well. Then, as mentioned with that new weekly weapon blueprint, they do say keep an eye out for the Rook SMG blueprint for the HMR9. That'll be available, like I said, probably in like week 8, and then you can go through and get the season 2 aftermarket part slash weekly challenge camo on that once that week becomes available. Now, alongside the new content and weapons that are going to be dropping with Season 2 Reloaded, we're also going to have some actual gameplay updates and meta changes in the form of weapon buffs and nerfs. And while the full details of this will all be described in the actual patch notes, which I'll be covering right as they drop on Wednesday, so stay tuned for that as well, we do have some indications of some things the devs have been monitoring, and then also just going back to a few things they've said in the past. Those could also easily come to fruition with this update. So a couple of things I'm personally keeping my eye on for the close range, the long range meta, and everything in between. On the close range side of things, at least for SMGs, while there is a decently competitive SMG meta, really the Ram 9, the AMR 9, and the HMR 9 are kind of dominating right now in terms of their mobility stats and or their TTK stats. Like the AMR 9, for instance, so long as you've got your sights up, it's basically unbeatable if you're landing your shots with it. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of those were nerfed just to add in a little bit more variety, you know, bring the Wasp 9, the Striker 9, the base Striker a bit more in line with some of the other top tier options. And I'd also love to see some MW2 subs maybe have some life, but I'll talk more on that here in just a moment. For the long range option, we did see an update, recently that added in the one-shot capability for the Stalker within like 80 meters, I think is about the max with the right setup on there. And it seems like that's gone over very well. The sniping community seems pretty pleased with the fact that we have the Cat and the Stalker that can one-shot now. So wouldn't be surprised if they do sort of open up that one-shot sniping meta a little bit more and kind of bring it back more in line with that Warzone 1 sniping meta towards the end, and like Caldera, that was honestly pretty balanced. You know, get rid of having to use explosive ammo to one shot so you can actually have some decent velocity, and suddenly you've got a very competitive sniping meta there. Also, something that the devs repeatedly said they wanted to do over time is buff MW2 weapons to bring them in line with all the MW3 ones. Now, TTK wise, there's a handful of MW2 weapons that can hold their own, things like the STB or the Avancer or the Chimera. The Vaznev's not too far behind. Like, there's a couple of options, but for the most part, they're all kind of lacking. Like the LMGs, pretty trash across the board. There just aren't many that can hold their own there. But then even the ones that do, you have to factor in the MW2 weapon behavior, where they all have more visual recoil, more muzzle smoke and muzzle flash. The patterns are a bit more RNG with the aim sway and whatnot. So the devs did recently say, back in a call that I was in a little while back, that they wanted to essentially make the MW2 weapons behave like the MW3 ones. So lower visual recoil, more predictable to use, which would help out a lot in the grand scheme of things. And that's just an update that we really haven't seen much of in the recent meta updates. So really, with any major one happening with a seasonal launch or a mid-season update, it's a good chance we could see that sort of overhaul to that MW2 weapon system. So that's also a possibility for the Season 2 Reloaded update as well. Like I said, though, the full weapon details and changes will be listed in the patch notes, and right as those drop, I'll be covering them in a video. So if you want to stay up to date with that alongside everything else going on in COD, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And if you enjoyed the video, do me a favor and drop a like on it on your way out. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.